Hello and welcome. Being the older brother, looking at you, people might not believe that, but I have to tell them, being the older brother, I have a privilege, which is to introduce the program. Rather unusually, I'm going to open the program by apologizing. I always believe it is much better to apologize before than after about my brother's English. You will see during the program a sauce or curdle will become a cadley sauce. The bay leaf will be called laurel leaf, and on and on and on. But we've been a long time together. You follow me to school. I remember I had to deal with a problem at school too. You remember the big boy who used to follow you and wanted to thump you.
But you were there.
I was there. You always run to brother and let brother dealt with it. You did the same at home during your childhood. I had to deal, or mother had to deal with me.
We're not going to do that on TV.
No. We joined force together 21 years ago and opened our first restaurant, Le Gavroche. I'm pleased to say that we've achieved something which is very exceptional. We achieved together 2 3-star restaurant in Michelin Guide, which is really the Olympic medal of cooking.
Which is unique in the world.
Unique in the world, absolutely. We split 5 years ago.
I'd like to barge in there, as I think it's important that what Albert means by split, it means that we needed a bit of breathing space. We needed to concentrate on what we had. You can't, on the day-to-day running of a business like Le Gavroche or the Waterside Inn, move around and look after a restaurant and have a suitcase in your hand every day. But it doesn't mean that we split. We are together with heart on the phone, and we are together from time to time.
That's very true, Michel.
We are together today.
Yes,
and we'll be
today.
together for weeks to come.
Yes, God help our viewer. I think they're going to see a lot of argument and difference, but
not a lot.
No, because there's one thing we never argue with. It's a standard.
It's got to be
which
the
we
highest
want to
and
achieve.
the best.
Absolutely. And that, but we do argue how to get it, but we never argue about the standard. Also, I think it is very important that for our viewer, Michel, who are wondering, what are those 2 top chefs doing in shirt sleeve? The program, Michel, is
Cooking
not
at
addressed
home.
to a professional.
No, and it's cooking
It is
at home.
addressed for the lovers of food.
And in any case, if you think about it, cooking, I mean, let's be fair, cooking is something which is, you don't have to be professional, as we were saying. You've got to love cooking, you've got to have something towards food, and that's what we've got. But what I can't understand there, and there is one point it does make, Albert makes me laugh sometimes, and that's one point he does, is that he cooks once a year. I mean, that's normally on New Year's Eve.
But of course, Michel...
No, but, cooking at home for you is something which is very important.
Michel,
it's not the numbers of time.
I never stop
quality.
to amaze my guests on New Year's Eve, because I have my black tie, and everything is pre-prepared, and very much the way we are showing it today, or during those weeks on television. Everything is pre-prepared, and I just jump out, few minutes, finishing the thing, no transpiration, and I sit down with my guests.
Anyway, you'll be able to see us really doing 13 programs and doing a lot of different kind of cooking. What I mean by different kind of cooking is that different stages. We will do some starter, soup, stock. We will do beautiful dishes and most interesting like patisserie and pastry, which I think I will take a bit of the lead, but we will share most of it. I will do some of the arty bit a bit.
I will do the most important thing, Michel, the floury bit.
Yes, I hope that you're not as messy as you used to be. As if you are, I'm not going to work 13 seri with you.
Well, I hope you're not going to ask me to prepare all your bits and pieces, so you can come in late as usual.
Okay, you know my shortfall.
And then
I
get
know
the medal.
yours. Let's try to forget about those things, and let's try to make that program the most beautiful and interesting program.
There is no reason. If you behave properly, I'm sure it will be.
Touché? Of our caliber?
Yes.
Should be no problem whatsoever.
Should be no problem, Michel.
One thing to point out, however, is that there will be no reference of weight and measure, as we feel that it's a loss of time. We've display our skill, our tips, and we like to move around and along very quickly. And I don't know who is Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit is Fahrenheit.
Yes.
And that measures the heat. So let's don't talk about it.
And in any case, as a reference for weight and measure, you've got a book attached to the series. We're starting our series with eggs, as eggs are the base of everything in patisserie and in cooking. Would you say so?
Very much so in cooking, Michel. Béarnaise sauce, hollandaise sauce, to name only few, and as an emulsioner
Yes.
for our sauces.
And in patisserie, we're using it on ice cream, we're using it in anything which is biscuits, genoise, and we'll see it through the program. But the other reason really we decided to go on eggs is that it's a basic breakfast morning, it's a basic lunch for an omelette, it's the basis of a lot of meals really.
You can do so much.
You can have
with
an egg on a run, as we said, you know, I mean, a cafe, just with the salt and pepper. And a lot of people use eggs and cooked it, and they're doing it as they've been teach one, but they haven't seen the water doing it as a 3-star.
That's correct.
Let's have a look at what we've got there. As we've got quite a nice little varieties of eggs. We've got some turkey eggs there,
Not my favorite,
No.
Michel, but a nice eggs.
but unusual by the color, those beautiful
Yes.
little color.
Yeah.
And you've got those beautiful big eggs, which are the
Now,
good
those I
eggs.
like.
You do. You
In
like them
scrambled
cold.
egg. No, I like them in scrambled egg and omelette.
Ah, but you only need one. You won't need two.
I've known to eat
And
two.
then we've got those lovely farm eggs, the best.
Yes.
I mean, the farm always go for the free range eggs, only for battery. That's the battery if you can't find the farm and the free range. Then you've got those lovely little dark eggs. That's
I
the
love.
one you like cold.
With a little
I
bit of
was mistaken.
mayonnaise.
That's
Yes.
it. I
Yes.
remember that.
Yes.
I do. When you were a kid, Mum always used to cook you some cold
Yes.
eggs there. Yes.
Yes.
And then we've got the cigars, gal's eggs.
Gal's eggs.
Gal's eggs, which are nice with the little paprika and sel de celery with brown bread.
Lovely.
Delightful. And then those lovely little quail's eggs, which can be served as a canapé.
With a little glass of champagne on the right
You
hand.
always think about champagne.
Drop of caviar.
Eggs is champagne for you.
Phew, lovely.
Right. Why don't you now start to think seriously about your scrambled eggs? I must say, I do like your scrambled eggs.
Thank you. I take that
for what
as a
it's worth.
compliment.
For what it's
I
worth.
take that as
And
a
now,
compliment.
After your œuf brouillé, I will do my omelette.
Well, Michel, you've been so kind to me. I wish you a pan who will stick so that you can take the omelette.
Thank
out.
you.
Thank you.
I will make it nevertheless.
Thank you. I'm going to demonstrate to you how I do a scrambled egg. The way I do it might sound a bit cumbersome, but I promise you the result in your palate is infinitely better than the way other people do it. I've cracked my 3 eggs and whipped them with a touch of salt. I've got a saucepan with boiling water and a mixing bowl on top of it. I'm adding my butter, which will melt as I put it in. Let it melt a little bit. And then add your eggs. I'd like to emphasize that I only put the eggs. There's nothing else, and there's 3 eggs in there. Put it into the basin and mix it well. Now, it takes longer than the usual way of doing it, which is direct onto the heat. So while I'm doing it, I'm going to pass you on to my brother Michel, who's going to demonstrate how to do an omelette.
Now, for omelette, what you do need per person, if you want to do a dish, a starter, or even as a main course, if it is for lunch, it's 3 eggs. I break my eggs, beautiful and fresh, one by one. When you think about omelette, you think about the feeling of what you're going to do. That's obvious. I mean, how do you feel today? Would it be tomatoes? Is it going to be filled with spinach? It's very much a question of the taste of the day. Today, I've got beautiful herbs. I've got some chives and parsley, which have been snipped together. So that will be my garnish for my omelette. But there is endless choice on fillings and for omelette. I need a good pan. If possible, a no-stick pan. I've got one there. If you are not really very keen about the pan you're having and you like to give a good clean, what you should use is salt. So cooking salt into the pan, an old kitchen cloth, and you wrap your pan, and that will take all the humidity, take all the dust which you can have, which should not be there, and you will have a very nice and clean pan. Now you beat your eggs, salt and pepper. Here you are. I like in my omelette a little cream, so give a bit of moistness. So I just put a spoon of cream. And then to cook it, I need beurre clarifié, clarified butter, which I will show you a little bit later during today's program. how to make clarified butter and a touch of oil, very little, just a drop, in fact. Now, the pan must be very, very hot indeed. Very, very hot. Bit again. The cooking part must be done very swiftly, in a spell of a second. Herbs. We're talking about 30 seconds. Now, you can see that it's very hot. Pour the eggs. Just turn it once or twice, you can see. Stir your pan. I like my omelette a little running in the middle, so I don't overcook it. That's it. Now, for me, the omelette is cooked, so you've got to roll it. I like the underside to be lightly colored, so I leave it for a second. You can see that with the little move of the pan. I turn it gently, back on itself. I've got that hand. And that's the omelette. That's the way I like it. Just a very, very light color on the top. Not even a light hazelnut color. Now, I cut a groove in the middle. You see, it's a bouncy omelette. That's what I love. And normally what I do, I just add a little sprig of chervil as it comes. If it was tomato, it'd be tomato or spinach, or even fish, little sardine. Filling is beautiful. So that's the omelette finished. Now, let's show it to Albert and see if I can get his approval. Why not? What do you think of that omelette, Albert?
Nice and bouncy. I prefer mine without any color at all.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
But it looks nice.
But it's bouncy.
And I would eat it, yes.
Well,
very,
white is sad. I like a little hazelnut color.
Ah, well,
Okay, vive la
son goût.
différence.
Vive la différence.
Vive la différence. What are you doing?
My
by the way?
scrambled egg, which are getting on beautifully.
Well, that's going to take ages. You're
Well-
doing it in the classical way.
Michel, this is the only way.
No, we've got to remember that the viewer would like to gain our techniques, our skill, but they would like to be able to do things fairly quickly and swiftly in the morning.
Well, I would say to the viewer, if you have not got time to do a proper scrambled egg, stick to a boiled egg.
Well, that's rude. And
No, it
tough.
is not. It is not. Just
No,
facts
no,
of
no,
life.
no. No, I normally cook it direct to the heat, but onto the electric ring, very gently and slowly.
Ooh.
I know. That's the
The
difference.
beauty of also that doing it that way is that when you've done it, you certainly can keep it warm under the bain-marie for hours.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know that.
yes, I'll be
and they
back.
do not deteriorate.
Yes. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow morning and see you there. What is that?
No, that's my garnish.
That's your garnish.
That's my garnish.
Yeah. You've got the
I'm
quail's
going-
eggs there.
My little quail's eggs, which you
Yeah.
know I love. They're softly boiled. You know, the yolk is just running.
Yes, but don't you think that can be confusing? Where are you going to find the quail's eggs?
Well, funny enough, they are now widely in the
France,
shops.
in France.
No, in this country it's
Yes,
coming. There are a few
You do have
specialized
it in
shops.
few shops. I agree.
Yes,
I agree.
indeed.
Okay, so you're
That-
happy that you're going to use all those fancy garnish.
That will go round my scrambled
Most
egg.
probably you do those kind of things at Le Gavroche.
Exactly.
Fancy
It's
you.
a 3-star scrambled egg.
Yes, I
Michel.
can see
Cooked
that.
in a bun.
That's why it's taking 10 minutes.
That's right.
Anyway.
Snip chives,
Snip chives. And you know,
caviar, a poached egg,
Yeah.
which will go right in the middle,
Yeah.
and my little crouton.
well, your poached egg, I love mine raw. You remember when we were kids?
I remember as a kid when we used to go and try to find the eggs, hunting the eggs, and
when
eat it raw.
when the hands were gobbling, well, what were they doing, you know? When they
Clackling.
clackling. They just had laid an egg.
That's
and
right.
my God, you know, we were just rushing,
Yeah.
picking the egg. And then they were still warm. I used to have a needle. Prick both hands and suck the egg still warm. That's the best way. For me, it is
Would
the
you
best.
do it now?
Why not? If mother was around, she would be so happy to see us doing it. At the time, she wasn't. You remember?
I know,
She used
she
to say,
knows,
"What are you going to have for lunch if
That's
you
right.
eat the lunch
egg.
in the morning?"
Yes, yes.
But what about your eggs?
Oh no, you see, they're
Oh, no,
doing
no,
fine.
no.
I'm
You
ready
forget
now.
your eggs now.
I am ready now to have
Yeah.
my cream. You see,
Well,
you can go and discuss.
You nearly forget about
No. They're perfect. Look at that.
Well, that's
Look
the
at that.
advantage, I imagine, of cooking it in a bain-marie.
Exactly. You can answer the phone, come back, and you scramble
You
egg.
can make your call, you mean?
Or make you cold.
Yes.
Well,
You love it, don't you?
there you are. Put my cream in,
Oh, God, you love cream, don't
and
you?
that's it. Oh,
Yes, you do. And
That's
are you going to put it on plate or platering or just...
Well, I'm going to recook it a little bit more because that's a bit too runny.
And you're going to put it together.
Well, and I'm going to put it together.
I leave you then. I want to see the finished dish.
We will turn now our attention to poached eggs. This is 3-star Michelin poached egg. You may say, well, poached eggs are poached egg. Well, not in my school. A poached egg, there's a very important way how to do it, and there are certain tips which you should know about poached egg. 3 fundamental things. The water should not be boiling like mad, should be just rolled itself over. Vinegar is added to it. The second point, you don't salt your water, as the salt would make the white of egg stiff and put all sort of little speckle on the white of eggs. The third thing, and not the least important, it is very important to have fresh eggs. I have here 3 fresh eggs, 24 hours old, and 1 who has been in the fridge for 3 weeks. It's still good to eat, but it will not do a poached egg. It will go all flat. So I will crack the eggs. And fold them gently into there. Put the heat back on. They'll take about 2 minutes to poach. If you want to reuse them again, and if I'm going to use them straight away, then it'll take about 3 minutes to poach. The water as it's boiling, roll the eggs over by itself, but you certainly could use
Soft poached eggs.
soft poached egg.
That's what you're doing. And what is that one? The fourth one.
The fourth one was the old eggs. Wanted to show the difference between an egg which is very, very fresh and an egg that has been in the fridge for several weeks.
Last time I saw you doing poaching eggs was with a big pot with something like 20 eggs at a time.
I remember very painfully, that was at the Royal Alberto, Michel, when I served 3,500
I thought
poached
it was
eggs.
only 2,500.
No, 3,500, 3,000 people,
Yeah.
3,500 we poached.
So in fact today it's a day, it's
Oh,
like
today
it's like an holiday, isn't it?
Today's holiday,
It is
yes.
holiday. Yes.
So as you can see, show you very clearly, this was the eggs. I mean, you can see that. It
There's a
fell
mold.
apart.
Mm.
It fell totally apart. Now let's take the fresh eggs. You see the white of eggs has wrapped up the yolk beautifully. A few more little seconds, and then
we didn't get the chance of mentioning of keeping the eggs away from anything like onions, which,
Well,
which is most important.
first of all, when you poached an egg, you certainly can keep it for 4 days, at least into water, salted water, into the fridge. And then what we mustn't forget too, as my brothers say, an egg is a living body. You may think when the hens has laid the eggs, it's finished. It is not. It is living.
Exactly.
It is breeding. So you must make sure that you store them into a place where it is cold.
Next to an onion is no good.
No, but next to a truffle.
Yes. Next to a melon is no good either.
That's no good
But
either.
the truffle, I love it.
Next to a truffle,
the
it
truffle,
takes...
obviously, you gain all the smell of it.
Absolutely.
And if you're doing poached eggs and you serve it with a Périgueux sauce, for example, then you're very happy, as the eggs has got already the flavor of the truffles. So you poached your eggs there. Now, if
They're
you
ready.
wanted, they're beautiful.
Then
They're beautiful.
what I'll do...
That's classical.
See, I put them in cold icing water, and I put them on a cloth.
Yeah, but you see, the third one is you can't use it.
Well, the third one, we're not using it. And then
Now,
you
if we want it, you can
cut
keep
the
them
edge.
in the fridge in the water and reheat them as you
but
need
yes,
them.
you see, it's nice and soft,
Yes.
so it can be reheated again.
And one of the classical way of doing, of serving poached eggs, would you say it's with mayonnaise?
Absolutely.
Shall we make a mayonnaise?
Hey, why not?
Yeah? Now, the ingredient for the mayonnaise, I'll bring them over to you. That's all what you need. Now, I can't understand why really people don't bother about making the mayonnaise themselves, as there is so few ingredients needed to make a good mayonnaise, and it's so easy to make it at home. What you do need, it's eggs, Dijon mustard, oil, seasoning, and lemon or wine vinegar.
Or wine vinegar.
So, you should really make your mayonnaise instead of just buying a bottle.
Now, the way I like my mayonnaise, I like to use maize oil, which is what would call virgin taste, and 3/4 of it, and then put a third of pure olive oil or nut oil or any other sort of strong
Shall
oil.
shall I dilute it a bit of the
You
salt
always
with the
dilute.
water?
No, I'll put a bit of lemon juice,
Yes.
Michel. Always dilute your salt, because don't forget the salt. You're going to put solid onto it, so it's important that it dilute properly. Take your mustard with the yolks,
You want your salt now?
and the same again with the mustard. You can put all different sort of mustard, and that obviously is going to influence the taste of your mayonnaise. Start to mix your whole gently at the beginning. After that, you're away. Now, if it runs on you, and it does sometimes, well, the tip is to take a little bit of hot water or hot vinegar.
I like the way you move your wrist. I mean, you've
Yes.
got. I can see that you've done it
I've
before.
done it before.
Can you use your other hand?
Absolutely no problem.
Thank you very
Michel.
much. I mean, just show us a bit of your dexterity. That's better. And don't speed it up as we've got time.
You know, you learn that in pastry to use left and right hand
Yes, quite right.
when you whip the white of eggs.
Yeah. There's one thing to I think we should point out. Mayonnaise is the beginning of, well, can be the base of so many sauces in the kitchen. We do the cocktail sauce, the fresh herb sauce.
Green sauce.
I mean, there's so many use. Now you are out of the wood, I should say.
Now I'm going to put a
You're
little
a
bit
winner.
more. Now I'm going to get very, very, very
Yes, you're going
adventurous.
Yes, you're really going fast now, and that's when it's going to go wrong. Ha!
Ready?
Yes, I can see it.
That would be funny if I missed the mayonnaise. in
I
front of
would
the
like
camera.
it, yes. Yes.
Right, well, I think it is
You want
ready.
do you want your olive oil now?
Now I'm going to
As
put
you
the
see,
olive
the
oil.
beauty, I think it's got to be pointed out, the beauty is that you should add your favorite oil. But
If you take
the
the
top
top
off.
yes, it would help.
Yes, you add your favorite oil very gently at the hand to flavor the mayonnaise to the flavor which you like. So it can be hazelnut, walnut, olives. Albert likes olives.
But not too strong. You see, it's got. If you only use that, I don't like it.
And now, am I
Like a
right to
little
say that?
flavor.
Is it? You want your vinegar now? Do you?
Yes.
Yes.
The lemon. Yeah,
Well.
lemon or vinegar. I prefer vinegar, but you got me lemon.
That's me who's got lemon.
Oh. I've got my oil. You got your lemon.
So here's your lemon. If your sauce is too thick at that stage, you can just add a little warm water into it. But
Yeah. Don't listen to him. I myself much prefer
I was
cream.
going to say he won't
Much
barge
prefer
on that.
cream.
He likes the cream.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You like the cholesterol, don't you?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mind you,
Look at
there is
that.
no doubt that this is the best way and the moistens the sauce. I mean, if you look at the sauce, the texture.
Well, I think
I think
to
you've
look,
done a
see,
lovely
to
sauce.
look at that. If you
Yes.
look, it's
Yes.
the texture is just right.
Why not just placing?
Because if you
I
put,
get me.
let's put an egg in there.
You want to do all the work, and me.
I'm getting excited.
Are you?
Look how beautiful it's going to coat it.
Yeah. Classical poached eggs, a little dish for the summer. Now I'm going to make hollandaise sauce. Once again, the ingredients are very simple. We've got the egg yolk, the salt, vinegar, white wine vinegar, crushed pepper, little lemon juice, and a little water. One of the main ingredients, the butter. I've got melted butter, which I'm going to use for the hollandaise sauce. Now, I melted the butter, which is now, and I'm going to skim the top. Skimming the top, take like little white foam away. So it will be what we will call clarified butter. I'm pouring it into a little muslin, into a bowl, very gently, and I'm stopping before that bottom part of the butter is coming in, which is like milk. And that's it. So that is finished. Now the clarified butter is very often used in our cooking, as we use it intensively for sealing meat and fish. When we cook it, it's cooked very fiercely, and it's avoiding to have little dots, black dots, onto the sauce or onto the meat, as That way the butter can go to a certain heat, exactly the same way that the oil will do. So that's my butter ready for my sauce. Now I've got here in that little pan the crushed pepper, the white wine, which has been reduced to not even a spoon of liquid. Now I've got to add my egg yolk, which I'm doing so now, and I'm putting a little water into it. Through the program, you will see that we're using a lot of reduction, as cooking is reducing liquid or cream or sauces to the point which you want the consistency of your sauce. I had my egg yolks, my little water, and I'm ready to whisk my hollandaise into a bain-marie. I've chosen a double boiler pan, and I've got my little pan in it. The reason is that I've got to be classic on the hollandaise. I can't afford really to go onto a ring or direct onto the heat or electric ring, as the heat must be very nice, very low and gentle. So no direct heat for the hollandaise. The whisking is taking around a minute and a half, whisking without stop. Now my hollandaise is almost poached. I'm taking it away a little from the hot water, so I don't want to over-poach it. Back for a second, and I'm quite happy now. Ready. So if you see the trail, it's almost like ribbon. I'm ready to put the butter into it. So the beginning, like any sauce you're making, don't add, it's a bit like the mayonnaise early on. Don't add too much of the butter too quickly, but very gently at the beginning. A little more. And then you can afford to pour it a bit faster. Just a little faster. And you've got a nice consistency. The lemon will come last, as well as the seasoning. And on that instant, I'm referring to the salt, as the pepper is in the sauce already. This is my hollandaise. Lemon goes in it now. And here we are. I'm very pleased with the texture of my hollandaise. Ready to serve.
Here we come to the end of the program about eggs. We could have done far more with the eggs if we had been given the time.
And more sophisticated dishes.
Yes.
Like the little soufflé with poached eggs, which is in the book, so you
Yes.
can find it there.
Uh-huh.
We could have done a little of coconut as well.
Marvelous.
It's the most beautiful dishes with
That's right.
asparagus, steak,
And
shallots.
easy to be done.
Yes. But you know, for a first program, quite pleased about what you've been doing.
Well, obviously, it looks like if you're going to need me.
Yes.
Goodbye and happy cooking.
Hello
Hello
and
and
welcome
welcome
to our program on stock and soup. We are going to start with stocks. After the basic things we show you with eggs last week, this may seem a bit dull. But if you are serious about cooking, knowing how to make a good stock is essential. Even if you don't rely on the stock cube you can buy in supermarket, which I know are immediately noticeable in food, and you are actually making your own stock, this program could be very useful to you. Unless, of course, you are one of those perfect human beings that has never used your stock pot as a dumping ground. Tell me, Albert, have you ever taken any dreadful shortcut, and how is the cooks behave at the garage? Are they very disciplined on how to make their stock?
My dear chap, I'm very surprised that you mention the word shortcut. I don't know what it means. The stock pot at the garage is one person who's in charge. It is not a dumping ground.
Again, very classical on that.
Very, very classical.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that.
Simmers gently.
I just wanted to quickly check if you were doing your job properly.
I haven't changed.
Well done. Well, let's have a look at what we've got there on those lovely stock. We've got a little game stock which have been made.
Look, very rich.
Very rich and deep, dark color.
Yep.
We've got a very light lamb stock, which is almost I mean, watery, very, very light lamb stock. And the most important of all, the basic one, that's the veal stock. Now, the veal stock, it's very important to point out that can be reduced. It takes 24 hours to cook. It's be cooked very slowly.
Well, yes, it does take 24 hours to cook,
and then you can
Michel.
get a lovely double glass out of it when it's reduced. It needs to be reduced, and then you've got, that's for very rich sauce.
You roast your bones and you cook it.
Can we have a look at them on the same time? That's the bones really at their first stage. When they're raw, they must be beautifully fresh. And then we roasted them.
That's right, and with your vegetables.
The vegetable.
I myself put always a veal trotter into it, Michel.
I think it's nice. It gives
it
gelatine.
The glutinous,
the glutinous.
Yes, and the chine.
And do you use fresh tomatoes or puree tomatoes?
I use tomato puree, but I fry mine in the bones to take the edge of the bitterness out of it. The acidity, that's right.
And of course you've got the famous bouquet garni and the little garlic glove with the onions mixed together.
And the white wine, a drop of white wine.
Stock. I mean, what do you say what is your worst experience which you've seen? I've got some experience which I personally like people using flour in stock, which is totally wrong.
Yes.
I mean, you should not use flours in stock. I've seen onions burned, so it goes
bitterness, very bitterness of stock.
It's bad news, really.
Too much of celery, too much of condiment.
Yeah.
So you don't get the marriage.
There is an overpowering thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's totally wrong.
Yes.
Yes. Any other thing which you should point out and mention?
No, Michel. A stock takes, a good brown stock will take 24 hours. We cook as for 48 hours.
But 24 hours is the minimum.
It's the minimum. It's a slow process so that
and there should be no cooking without stock, really.
Well, you can't cook without stock.
We're talking about serious cooking.
Serious cooking.
We'll do exactly the same. We've got all our range of stock.
I mean, you can use queue, but as you know, we can always pick it up straight away when there's a queue.
Yes, and you see, they can froze beautifully well, so you don't have really to do it too often, your stock.
No, once a month, twice a month.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, what is the next thing?
Well, the next thing, Michel, I think you...
Are you going to do some work?
No, well, I'm going out because you're going to do something which is a quick version of white chicken stock, shortcut again. As you know, I do not take shortcut. So rather than see it and suffering, I'm going to leave it to you.
Well, in fact, I feel very happy to do what you call shortcut.
Yeah, I'm going to bid my goodbye to you.
Good. Chicken stock. Now, in this recipe, I'm making the stock from chicken. But a note of warning, do not think that you will make a better stock by steaming at pressure for more than 20 minutes. After this time, pressure cooking extracts too much from the bean bones, and the stock can be cloudy and lose some of its delicacy. Now, let's have a look at the ingredient. The basic ingredient, of course, the chicken. You've got necks, wings, a little carcass, all the bones which have been finely chopped. Nice and fresh, most important. Leeks which have been cut, again little pieces of carrots which have been chopped, mushroom, onions which have been sad with cloves, and a little bouquet garni. Now, the first thing to do, you place your pressure cooker on the hobs and add your butter, a little piece of butter. You then steam very gently, you sweat exactly your vegetable for 10 minutes, no more than 10 minutes. So that all goes there. The bouquet garni will go last. Now, you cover it, and then you leave it on for 10 minutes. So after the 10 minutes have gone, you place your chicken bones into the pressure cooker, and then you cover it up with water. I'm saying covering it up, very important, just up to the bones. So they nicely cover. Then I've got one which I've been just boiling now. So what you do, the bouquet garni is in by now, of course. You just skim the top, as it's got to be skimmed a little. So you take some of the fat away and skim, as there is a little fat. You don't want a claddy stock. There we are. And then you place your lids. You can see that it's beautifully, just nicely boiling. Now, you place your lid inside the cooker pressure, close it nicely, and that's ready. Now, when it's boiling, when the pressure is on, it needs no more than 20 minutes, as I was saying early on, most important of all. And then you've got a lovely chicken stock. Let's have a look at the chicken stock. I've just got one there, which has been, in fact, not only cooked, but drained. So here we've got the chicken stock which has been drained. You can see all what's left of the chicken, carrots, onions, and bouquet garni. And here is that lovely chicken stock. You look at it, it's not clouded. It's clear. That's what we want. We want a light, clear color. So a quick white chicken stock is very straightforward. Well, yes, except for one crucial ingredient, the bouquet garni. In fact, in our bouquet garni, we always use this combination of herbs: parsley stock, leeks, celery, thyme, bay leaf, all wrapped in string. But like stock, bouquet garni can become rather a dumping ground with very inappropriate herbs mixed together. Before I pull apart some commercial bouquet garni and see what is on offer, I would like to take you on a little trip around my herbs garden, which is my pride and joy. Salut Pierrot.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Comment va le jardin?
Oh, très bien, merci.
What a lovely cherry you've got there. We're going to use a lot in the next few days. Now, this is Pierrot. Pierrot is my gardener, wonderful guy. He looks after the herbs, and herbs are so important in the restaurant business, especially for me at the waterside. Now, let's remember one thing, however. He's got one drawback. His English is worse than mine. Having said that, let's have a look at the cherry. What a lovely cherry we've got there, Pierrot. I mean, fantastic. Don't cut too much at a time. I really would like to use it as a garnish on the top. Not in the sauce. It's a lovely garnish. And we'll use it as well, and we will use it in the series with the little turbot and the salmon.
Okay.
Now let's have a look at all your goodies. Take me around.
Yep.
Look at that, Pierrot. You see, this year, for the first time, we've got the lemon thyme. And we're going to use it. I'm doing a nice mussels dishes in the series, in the TV series. Dish which we do at the waterside as a starter.
Yes.
Beautiful. We use thyme. And we use, obviously, thyme in a lot of bouquet garni from time to time. Practically every bouquet garni do have thyme. You see those beautiful flowers?
Yes.
We will use them on the little tarragon with bees. Use with the chop, the little côte d'agneau, the little lamb chop, on presentation. So don't cut, don't snip the flies. Keep me an eye on the mint as well.
Okay.
And let's have a look at what's happened next. Oh, well, you've got nice little salad there. Oh, you've cut some of it.
Yes.
You've cut some of the
Yes, I did,
roquette.
yeah.
What I like about the roquette, it's that lovely little spicy flavor, peppery flavor,
Yes.
which is unusual, unknown normally. I mean, you get that kind of salad normally inside of France. It's better than last year. Have you put anything there?
I use mushroom compost.
You use composter.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be costly, but my salad is nice, so I don't care. So use composter, that's a jolly good idea. And it looks lovely in salad, just few leaves of roquette. Beautiful. Now, let's have a look at the next corner. That's my favorite one, Pierrot, and you know that.
Yes.
You know why it's my favorite one? As you always get so many different flavor coming out. The beautiful flowers on the marjoram. They can be cut and used on the presentation. They look beautiful. And rosemary should be used, as you know, on the little rabbit.
Yes.
Cut not too much. We've got a big bush there,
Yes.
so they should cut. We should cut on that bush and not cut on the young root. Huh?
Yeah.
The sage I'm using every other Sunday when I do a little veal on a trolley. You know, a back of veal, flavor with sage, beautiful well. Now let's have another look at the tarragon. That's my favorite spot. The tarragon is superb. We use tarragon again in the rabbit. That's a lovely dish. And my favorite dish, or let's say one of my favorite dish, I'm going to do the tourte aux pommes de terre.
Ah oui.
A patate. You know, when I used to do in the winter, I used to do that. Lovely puff pastry dish. So later in the series, I'm going to use the tarragon.
Okay.
Tarragon will be a jolly good news. And that we've got a little bit more salad there. Keep an eye on it. But the tarragon, we can even put it on the vinegar.
All right.
In a bottle for the winter, flavoring our vinegar. Now let's have a look at the next little corner. Chives. Chives, you know, people think it's common. But chives is much more delicate. Chive, you snip it. You don't chop it. And you don't join it with white cheese, you know, with farm cheese, soft cheese. You can have it on tomato salad. You can have it just flicker like that as a whole on salad. The fennels. Okay, let's come to the fennels. A lot of people ask me, what is that fennel, Mr. Roux? This one is the herbs, the ferns for the presentation. There's two kinds of fennel, as you know. You've got the bulbs,
Yes.
which we haven't got here, which is for the vegetable, and you've got the herbs. Now, the herbs is superb as it stands. Having said that, it's becoming a bit yellowish. We've got to cut it and use it in the sauce, and we use it intensively in our bouquet garni, as you know, especially when we use fish. And in fact, we will see that in a few minutes, as we're going to use it on our preparation of bouquet garni, which come next. And we're going to use a lot of your herbs.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be proud
Thank you.
of your herb garden. One of the pleasures of cooking is to make up your own bouquet garni. In the middle of last century, a famous chef defined a basic bouquet garni as one containing parsley, thyme, and bay leaf. And from there, where have we gone? As really, I'm worried when I see what can be found in the shop.
We gone astray. We have gone astray.
I think something somewhere has gone wrong.
Yeah.
As, a bouquet garni should be tailor-made. We will have a look at the one we do in our restaurant at Gavroche and
yes,
Waterside. But let's have a look what can be bought in the shop and really open up one or two of those little sachets. I mean, they look like infusion, herbal infusion.
Well, that's what they are, Michel.
Well, yes, but, you know, do you want to go...
No, I would never put that in my cooking. But that's what they are.
You look at it, I mean, it's full of marjoram, oregano. It's more like sprinkle. I mean, it's more a product for sprinkling pizza,
It is.
really, than using a bouquet garni.
Yep.
And there is only one out of all of them there we've got there, which is sensibly close to what we use and wrapped in a little muslin, which is using, it says, parsley, bay leaf,
Let's open it
thyme, and celery. And let's smell it as well, as it being tasting.
Mind my finger.
Yes, I've done that before.
Yeah, I know you have. Look at the color
Yes.
and the content.
And it does smell good. Now, the only problem will be, again, it is dry. Now, when you've got dry herb and dry product, you never get something which is as good.
Herbs. With
Dry herbs.
Herbs.
Now, you never get something as good as when it's fresh.
No, that's correct, Michel.
So we insist, and I think we should say that we insist, that please try to avoid to buy a bouquet garni. Do make your own bouquet garni. It takes little time and very few products are needed. I mean, let's have a look.
And there's different bouquet garni for different things.
It's tailor-made.
Yes.
The Poultry one should be, that's a finished product, all wrapped with the string. The Poultry needs a little celery, parsley stalk, little tarragon, and bay leaves. That's for the Poultry. Now, the game we use onions with orange skin, which flavor beautifully well, and romarin.
Yep. Rosemary.
Rosemary. On the fish, it's different. On the fish, we've got those beautiful fennels, which are delicate for it.
Chervil.
We've got maize as well, which we've got in the wrap there.
Maize.
And tarragon again, with leeks. And finally, on the meat, well, we've got something totally different. We've got garlic, little parsley. The basic thing, we've got parsley and bay leaves and thyme everywhere.
Yep.
I think we've got it true for the bouquet garni. Most important, do make your own bouquet garni.
If possible.
Yes. Now, it's time you did some work on this program, brother. So why not starting to make your own contribution and doing the watercress soup?
You're getting very cheeky, my son.
Well, you've got all the ingredients there.
What, you want me to make a watercress soup with that? Michel, you're not expecting me to use onion, carrots,
No?
leeks for watercress soup? That look more like minestrone or Scotch broth.
Well, I know you're very classic.
No.
but Why don't you tell me what you use in your watercress soup?
Watercress, potatoes, white stock or water.
Yes.
That's it.
And the watercress and the potatoes.
That's it.
You're a cheeky devil.
No, Michel.
You're a snob.
I am not going to do a watercress soup like that.
If you're using chicken stock, you know pretty well that in the basic of the chicken stock you've got leeks, carrot, and shallot.
No, that's
you
different.
Do.
But you're adding some more.
Well, having said that, you know...
No, I'm not going to argue with you.
Don't think that...
I'm not going to do it.
I mean, you haven't upset me. It's just that
you have
proof
upset
that
me.
you think that classic is right. Let me do my soup. I will do it. I will do it with my...
I wouldn't call it watercress soup, Michel.
No, I will.
You could have problem.
You're classic.
I'll
Let
leave
me
you,
laugh for a second.
I'll leave you with your soup. I'll leave you
I'll
with
make
it.
my soup. Now, the older brother is always the right one, they say, but on that instant, I don't think he is. Now, let's have a look at what is needed for my watercress soup. I've got the butter here, and I'm going to melt it into the pan. I'm immediately adding my watercress, which have been picked, and which I'm saving a few beautiful leaves, the best one, which will be for my garnish. So that goes in the pot. In a fierce heat it does go. And on the same time, I'm putting my leeks. Like, a little word about watercress soup. The reason why I'm adding a little leeks, a little shallots, very little as you can see, and a little carrot dice, is that I found if I use only potatoes and watercress, I find it too strong, too much iron into it, and not enough delicatesse. I find it that there is not enough finesse. So I let it sweat with the lids on for 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, it's time to add, when it's been nicely sweated, the chicken stock. Here we are. The potatoes. And of course, the cream. The beautiful double cream. Now, that doesn't take more than the lid on, just until the time it's boiled, and it doesn't take more than 20 minutes. Now, when the potage, the soup, is cooked, the watercress soup, it's time now to liquidizing. So you need a liquidizer, and now I've got a version of a watercress soup which have been liquidized, and what you need to do is to strain your soup. So we're going to do that and see how it looks. That watercress soup has been cooked for 20 minutes and it's been liquidized. Now it's time to strain it. You can see the beautiful color. Not a yellow-green, but not a very deep green. Now you push it down up to the hand. Let's have a little look now. Soup I can leave out of soup. I can tell you that I can make a meal out of soup, and I often do. As when you cook all the day long, you are tired about food very often, and a bowl of soup is always welcome. Now, let's have a look at that. That is most beautiful. Now, it just need to finish a little leaves of watercress which I've spared. I spared the best one, small one, plunge them in the boiling water, then in ice water, and I've got them ready for my garnish. I will just pat them dry on a piece of paper, and I've placed them on the potage. Lovely little garnish. Now, I've got dice of bread, which have been quickly tossed into a beurre Clarified. Just quickly tossed, and that will go into the potage. And that's the watercress soup. This recipe for consommé automnal serves 6, and of course, being a consommé is a crystal clear soup. The clarity is so important that you must remember to do a little seasoning while the ingredients are in their raw state, because if you do it when they are cooked, you make the consommé go claddy. The unique feature of this recipe is the crouton with veal stock, which I've got there with me, which has been reduced. The veal stock has been reduced to at least 2/3, so we've got a demi-glace de viande. For the crouton, I've got slices of bread which have been very finely cut and which I've just grilled, cooked under the grill, and they're nice and crispy, beautifully roast, lovely colors. And then I've got pistachio. The pistachio which, as a whole, plunge into the boiling water, then peeled and chopped. And that is really the main garnish and the most beautiful thing in that consommé. Wouldn't you say so?
Yes, Michel. The way you describe the crouton, one would think this is it. Hallelujah. You sit down and have your crouton. I mean, the crouton, quite honestly, is only a garnish. So it's very secondary to the consommé. So I'm going to do the consommé.
So you are
Am I? Well, I'm only delighted. I thought I was only here to listen to your speech.
Well, shall I do your pistachio?
Why don't you do that? Why don't you disappear? Do those little minimal little jobs.
It's a bit noisy
important,
to chop the meals.
And I will get on with the consommé.
Well, then I leave you the room, and I'll take with me the pistachio, the crouton, and I'm going to
come
peel
back
them and
in
chop
about
them.
5 minutes.
Few minutes.
Yeah, not
I give you a chance. Give you a chance. I'll take my dish as well.
Take your dish as well.
I need my dish.
Can you manage?
Oh, very well. Don't worry about me.
There we are. Off you go. What you're going to see applies to any consommé of any sort. This one is called consommé automnal, because in the autumn, the first games who appears are either grouse, which is too strong to do a consommé to my mind, or wild duck, partridges, and pheasant. Three of those games could be extremely good to make a consommé. I have chosen to take a partridge. What is terribly important in a consommé is the blending of the seasoning. If you put too much of this and too much of that, you will not extract all the fragment of the main ingredient, which is, after all, what you're looking for. I always compare it to a beautiful woman. A beautiful woman doesn't spend 1 hour in the morning in front of the mirror, a little bit of mascara, a little bit of lipstick, and off she goes. She knows she's beautiful. So this is nobles. So do not overpower it with all sorts of herbs and what have you. So we have some celery, leeks chopped up, diced tomato, carrots, diced, mushroom, little bit of thyme, white of egg. Now the white of eggs doesn't give nothing to the consommé at all. It will simply help the albumin which is in the partridge, which will clarify the consommé. It will help it on its way to clean it. And then we have the shredded breast of the partridges, which will go as a garnish. So the first job to do is to lift the legs and then finished up with the breast, carcass chopped up with the legs, mixed with a bit of salt, seasoning there, and the white of eggs, all mixed together very thoroughly. You really mix it thoroughly. And then onto a saucepan with your white stock. So that's a pure white stock, which is bland, but white stock, into the saucepan, which I've done here, and mix it well together. Don't leave it alone until it comes to the boil. When it has come to the boil, very gently lower it down and let it simmer. Let it simmer for about 45 minutes. By then, this one has been there 45 minutes. You finished up with that, with your lovely crust on top, as you can see. And look at the beautiful consommé you finish up with. By then, you take off the breast of your partridge, you let it cool off, and then you drain it. Now, when you strain it, please do not stir it. Strain it gently so that it doesn't blur. Now, I have here one which has been strained, which, as you can see, the color is absolutely beautifully. So I'm going to plate it. By then, Michel is bound to come up with his crouton.
I'm ready.
There you are.
I'm
Magic.
ready. And I even brought the pepper tile, the kitchen pepper, in case that... Oh, but you don't need it.
I don't need it, Michel.
Well, I'd like to show that, as maybe a lot of people do know. May I show?
Oh,
what we should normally do. As if you do have a little bit of fat,
yeah, the tissue paper will pick it up.
Will pick it up. So always have at hand, when you do a clear consommé or stock.
Looks beautiful.
Clear stock. So now the crouton, are you happy with it? I brought one back and some pistachios. Pistachio, as they were, they've been plunged in the water. And what you do, you just peel them. So you press the skin between your two fingers, and you've got that lovely little pistachio. That's the little pistachio.
So you
and then you chopped it. And then you take your little crouton. I kept one to show you. And then you brush very gently the demi-glace, the veal stock, and sprinkle with pistachio.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Needless to say, it's very important that the crouton should be served at the table.
Yes, but not before they sink.
Yeah. And in fact, I like mine served
on the
separate,
side plate.
And I like the crunch with the consommé.
With the consommé.
Right.
So that's another alternative.
It smells beautiful.
It does, isn't it? Very gamey.
Yeah. And light gamey flavor, which I like. As you said, partridge is one of the nicest and
it's the most noble.
And that's where comes the name Automal.
My dear Michel, what's all that? I thought we were going to wish our goodbye.
Well, I just wanted to show our viewer that you haven't got the monopoly on the consommé. My consommé, which I've just done there, which is
Michel,
the consommé francinette. Let me go through it.
It's beautiful.
The consommé francinette, which is what you need is chicken stock, raw celery hack, which has been shredded, raw beetroot, shredded as well, the little white of eggs which you use in your consommé before for clarification, to clean it, lean beef, chopped, and or mince and lean duck. That's the main ingredient. We've got it there on the stove now.
Yes, beautiful.
Let's
Michel.
look at the beautiful color it's got. Look at that. And again, it's clear as we salted it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Not totally, but it was
No, it's
nicely
beautiful.
seasoned at the beginning.
I have
before you get
I
home.
have to tell you, I've got no monopoly in nothing.
Thank you.
But you have one, and
Oh,
I'm
no,
going
no.
to leave it
Let
to
me-
you.
let me
it's
finish.
Watercress soup.
We'll
your
come back
way.
to that in a second.
Oh dear. Oh
Well,
dear.
you want to ruin my reputation.
No, you've done it yourself.
No, hold on a
You don't
second.
need
I
my
can't
help.
ruin yours. You haven't got any reputation.
I've done nothing wrong.
Now, let's go back to my consommé, the consommé
Yeah.
francinet.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at it.
That's beautiful.
That's going to hurt you. Look at that.
You've used some gelatin into it.
I have. I was going
Yes.
to say two gelatin leaves, Davis gelatin, or just a little gelatin powder. And you should add your gelatin. That's most important of all. You should add your gelatin off the stove when the consommé has been cooked, diluted very gently into it. Look at that beautiful color.
It is beautiful. Michel.
Eh? So you are agree with me. You haven't got the monopoly of the consommé.
I've got the monopoly in nothing, Michel.
No, and the soup.
There are
Let's go back to the soup.
Yes.
I don't think we talked long enough about the soup and consommé. Consommé is marvelous
seen
for
enough.
a great dinner. We've seen enough. I've got you there. You don't like when I caught you there.
Yeah, go
about
on.
those little shallots and carrots, which I use in my soup, like you use in your stock chicken. But let's not talk about it any longer.
I don't
can
call
see that you're
my
upset.
stock a soup.
Look,
please.
my soup
stock
was
is
a
stock.
watercress, and I'm not going to have you barging in that.
My dear
And you can
child.
always do a cauliflower soup if you want to.
Put
or
some
pea
watercress
soup
into
or
it.
carrots.
Yeah.
Why not?
Pea soup,
Why
put
not? If it suits me to my palate.
Well, then it is not anymore cauliflower
I'm
soup,
not only a
Michel.
cook, I'm a gourmet. I know
No,
what's
no.
good on the palate.
You
know
are
what's
not
that?
pure, I'm
Yes,
afraid. You
well-
are not pure.
Well, let's go back to the consommé. Consommé should be served in a grand dinner, don't you think?
Yes.
It's light and delicate. Let's
Or-
not have any argument about soup.
Oh, no.
Let's just think about mother.
Yes.
Mother will not like us to have an argument on that. And let's think as well about what are we going to
But
do
your
next
soup
week.
wasn't bad. I've tested it.
Ah,
It
you
wasn't
see?
bad.
But what are we going to do next week? As next week,
Oh,
we'll be
next
back.
week we're
Is
doing
chicken,
game,
and a duck.
And duck.
I look forward to that.
So it is time to say goodbye and wish everybody happy cooking.
And happy eating.
Hello and welcome. Let me take you through the game which I have around the table. It's a mixture of old bird and young bird. Let's start with the wild rabbit. The taste for a wild rabbit is to pull the ears apart. If it comes nice and easy, you got a young rabbit and also a rounded face. The partridge, which is an English partridge, the wing. The top end of the wing, if it's pointed, you got an old bird. Rounded, you got a young bird, and also have a look at the beak. Quite hard old bird. Wood pigeon,
That's a young
a very young wood pigeon.
newly born, in fact.
And then we go down to the pheasant, the bib of the pheasant, the beak is hard, and also the feet. Very, very hard.
Would you leave me a little bit of time for
Well,
me,
I've got a
please?
little bit more time than you. I'm talking about wild game, hard to catch, poultry, easy to catch.
Are you saying that you weren't out to catch them? Would you mind? Have you finished?
I have finished.
Thank you very much. Turning to the poultry. Here we've got today beautiful duck, English duck, Aylesbury duck, which shows that the skin is very smooth. So you've got a lovely bird there, and it's plumpy. The only problem is sometimes it's a bit too fat, and it lost a lot of fat while it's cooking. You've got big knees there, which shows again a very good quality of a bird. Then you've got free-range chicken. We try to get as much as possible poultry to be free-range. As you can see, for example, we've got a battery chicken there, which obviously doesn't even hold itself very well and doesn't taste very much when it's cooked, and not recommended. We've got a lovely, beautiful little quails, and we've got a lot of fruits there. The fruits, unlike the fish, are very nice with the poultry and the game. In the fish, they needed to offset some of the richness of the mousse, but in the game and the poultry, they goes beautifully well.
Now I'm going to show you how to debone a chicken. So, winglet out. And very important, pull the skin aside using your 2 finger. And then the wishbone. So you can have a clean cat using your 2 finger, pull it through, and it comes out nice and clean. Keep all that skin, because when you stuff the bird, you're going to need it to fall back on the bird. Sit the bird there. The bird has been in the fridge for several hours, so it's nice and firm. You're working through the carcass. Oysters out. There is nothing magical about boning. The only thing that can happen to you is that you cut your fingers. So what? I've cut mine so many times. But it is so nice when you have deboned something to give it on the plate to your guests, so they haven't got to fiddle with all the little bones of that chicken. And I would say practice makes wonder. Now, you may not do it as fast as I do deboning, and you may do it slowly, and I would suggest that you do so. But think of the end result. Of a simple little chicken, you will do an exclusive dish who's going to impress all your guests. You see how easy it is. I think what is terribly important here is that the chicken should be very, very cold. That little part here has got to come out. That's out. You only take the bone of the thigh bone. Finger underneath. Knife not towards you. Scrape it. That's it. So that's the half of your chicken, and the other half is ready to be taken through onto the other side. Now, these 4 poussins have already been deboned in exactly the same way, ready to be stuffed for a recipe using apples and calvados called poussin sartoise. Let's go through the ingredient of the recipe. Veal, fillet of veal, breast of chicken, which has been through the robot coupe. After that, into a basin, into it eggs and cream. When everything is finished, whisk together mushroom chopped up finely and shallots which have been sweated into the recipe, inside the poussin. For the garnish, apple turned up, little juice of lemon to keep them nice and white. For the sauce, all the trimming of the apple, calvados, cider, and cream. These are the basic of your sauce. Clarified butter for the cooking of the poussin. So I'm now going to start with the mousse. The meat has been through the robot coupe. I'm working on ice so that it is nice and cold. I will add the eggs, not too fast. Beat it well. Never use a whisk for that. You want the mixture to become as homogeneous as possible. If you've got a problem with it and it's split on you, a little tip is to add some salt into it. It usually brings it back together. Or half of a white of eggs. The reason why it is on ice, the meat is nice and cold, so all the albumin and the sugar of the meat is here. As you can see, it started to blend itself together. Going to add the rest of the egg. And it's smooth. I'm now ready to add the cream. Not too much at a time, too. It's nice and shiny. I'm giving it plenty here. I'm ready to finish the cream. It's not quite a mousse because of the eggs. It's between a farce and a mousse, so it's not coarse, but you couldn't really call it a mousse. And I'm very happy with that. I'm very happy with the consistency of it. So I'm ready now to add to it the mushroom and the shallot which have been sweated. I'm folding that nicely together, blend it. Taking it out from the ice. I'm going to pepper it a bit, season it, salt. Mix it well. And I'm going to put it in the fridge to become a bit thicker, to cool itself. This is ready to go into the fridge. I have here some, same recipe, who has been into the fridge for about an hour. I'll take my little poussin, which has already been deboned, open it up, little salt, pepper. Do not try to take too much mousse at the time, otherwise you'll have a problem when you're going to try to reform the little poussin. Folding back together. Pushing back the legs. And form it like that. You see? It's quite easy. String underneath, one knot. And another knot around your leg. And that little poussin are ready to go into the pan to become nice and golden. Switch on the pan. Your clarified butter. Nice and hot. And when they are getting nice and golden, I'm going to prepare my apple, turn them, using my lemon juice, so they stay nice and white. Keep all the core of your apple to be reused. These wedges will be lightly cooked in butter for the garnish. When all that is happening, my poussin... Oh, you are kind.
You let me do that naughty bit.
Lovely.
You mind?
Lovely.
Oh.
Lovely. Don't forget to keep me all the core. Right?
Yes, well, I'll
Because
do
I'm
that.
going to
I'll
need
take
it.
the lemon juice as well.
Yeah, it's in there.
You put it
It's
in there.
Right. So while Michel is kind enough to do the apple, the poussins are getting nice and golden. Turn them over on their side. And it is nearly ready to take the peeling of my apple. Stop. There we are. That will go in the oven for at least 25 minutes. I've taken the poussins out from the oven. They've been there a good 20 minutes. I'm going to remove them from the pan on which they've been cooking and put them in a dish which I'm going to serve them. Pepper fall on top. Keep them in the oven. while I'm finishing up the sauce. Calvados into the pan on which it's been cooked. Flambe, and always be careful when you flambe, as you could get certainly singe and put the house on fire too. If you have any problem with that, it's not to pour water on it, but to put a lid on it and starve it of oxygen, and lids itself. Cider in. Now I'm going to let that reduce until it is syrupy. And in another word, that it coats the bottom of my spoon. And I will add the cream, whisk it well together, strain it. My sauce is ready.
Now a few tips about how to roast and how to enjoy the lovely duck. Here we've got an Aylesbury duck. We've got two, in fact. One which hasn't been prepared, one which has been cleaned and ready to roast. Now, one of the few things which you've got to remember is you always salty the inside of the duck and not on the top. One of the reasons is that the salt will spread all over the duck inside, and the taste, obviously, the seasoning will go through it much better. When you cook it as well, remember, very important point, don't break your meat, as the blood will run over, and that will really not be on. So that's for a few tips. Now I've got one duck similar to this one, which is in oven, which I'm going to get at and carve. I've got two different ways of carving a breast of a duck. You've got to have a very hot oven when you cook a duck, which means that the oven's got to be heated in advance, and it's got to be very, very hot indeed. Now, when you take your duck out, do be careful to make sure that the fat is out of the duck. When you put it on the board, if you do have time, remember it's always better to let it rest on the breast so the juice run into the carcass and keep the whole breast, as well as the legs, all the meat, nice, juicy. So now the carving of the duck, you've got to have a nice, very sharp knife. You can help yourself if you fear about the heat with the forks to hold your duck. And you're starting by laying down the duck on one side. Follow the leg. And that's the first bit to take off before you move to the second leg. Now the leg, as you can see, will be not blue, but fairly rare, as I've roasted for around 20 minutes per kilo, which means around 40 minutes for that kind of duck. I'm taking the other side of the legs out. At that stage, the legs should go back into the oven if you have them nice and crisp. Now you join there in the bone, get it off, and that goes back in the oven for a few minutes onto the tray. Now the supreme, the breast. Take the breast off with your knife. We do like our ducks slightly pink in the middle, so you will see that's what's happened. It's a beautiful breast, fairly thick. Do exactly the same for the other side. Cut it around. It's fairly hot, but as I say, you can always let it rest a few minutes before you carve it, which is always better. Now, the two ways of carving it, this way is en éventail, which means fan-like, which is lovely, nice and thin. Remember, always very thin as you can. So that's one way, in fan, and the other way is en aiguillette. Now, the aiguillette means long strip. We loved it beautiful and pink, and that's the way we've cooked it, and that's for a roasting duck. Magret au cassis, that is duck breast with black currant. In front of me, I've got breast of Mullard duck, which is a French breed, which are French duck, quite rare meat and pretty thick. And I've got the English duck, which I wanted to show you comparatively, which I'm not using for that recipe. The reason is that they may be a lovely duck, but they're not thick enough. The one which I'm using is the one which I'm using at the Watercress, which is a genuine magret de canard. Now, to do that recipe, I need the carcass of a duck, which I've got there, which is going to be roast for 20 minutes. I need the black currant. I need some shallots for the stock, garlic still, bay leaves and thyme, and little chopped carrots. And of course, the wine which I'm going to use to deglaze the dish when it's going to be roast. And finally, for the sauce, I'm going to do little cassis. That will be the cassis which is going to be a backup for the sauce. I'm going to use the little black currant again, but that will be for the garnish, and a little sugar, pinch of sugar, just to roast them to it, and the butter to butter the sauce at the end. So first thing to do, it's roasting the bones. Which I'm going to do in that dish. Spread it into it and into the oven. Now the bones are roasted. What I need to do is to add my vegetable, the little garniture aromatic as we call it, and stir it gently before deglazing. So I'm adding the carrots. I'm on high heat underneath. On the hob, that's the garlic, little shallots. Spread it all over. The thyme and the oil. That just need to be toasted for a few minutes. So the vegetables are not just raw, but do get a bit of a color, which is flavoring the sauce. Now the deglazing with the red wine, for that purpose I've got a Gamay wine. It can be a Pinot, a Burgundy type red wine. Let it cook for a minute. Then just fill it up to the top of the bones with a bit of water. Here we are. I'm bringing it up to the bowl. And then I'm adding the black currant into it. Reduce the heat and make sure that it keeps simmering. And during that time that the different stage is going through, which is the reduction of the sauce, Albert is going to cook the magret for me.
I put the clarified butter in a very, very hot pan. I've put the magret de canard on the skin side, so it is nice and crispy. I'm turning them over. See, nice and golden, but a crispy skin. I am now ready to transfer them onto the griddle. Skin down so that they keep all their moisture. Cover them with foil and take them in the oven to be kept nice and warm. I take my fat out and I do not throw it away. It's very precious to me, that. With that, I'm going to saute my potatoes if I feel like it, or keep it for further use. Goose fat is lovely, or duck fat. Pan back onto the stove. Black currant in. Sugar in. Shake it well. And I'm taking the black currant to brother. There you are.
Thank you, Albert. That will be for my garnish. We'll just pour it into the sauce. Now, let me take you to the stages of the sauce. To reduce it, it took me around half an hour. Then I drained the sauce, and I've got a lovely sauce, as you can see, which is most beautiful. And I've just finished adding the butter. Now, Albert just brought me the black currant, which I'm going to pour into it very gently. And may I ask you to carve the duck, please?
I'd be delighted
If you can
to
do that,
so.
if you can bring them over.
I'd be
and
delighted
carve
to
one
do
there
so.
while I'm pouring the blackcurrant into the sauce. It always helps to be two, isn't it?
It certainly
Here.
does.
So that's the plate. It's interesting it's very important, in fact, to see that wild mushroom goes beautifully well with that dish, and we often serve it as a sash. Now you're carving it very finely,
Yeah. En éventail.
which is most important, as the texture of the magret is fairly firm, and you must carve it very finely, even finer than we'll do with a normal duck. I'm going to,
Just to show you what Michel means, that's how finely I'm cutting it.
and I'm going to place a little sauce in the middle of the plate with some of the blackcurrant. And now I'm going to, can you
A
give me?
magret like that would
half of
serve two person,
I'm going to take half of it.
Very,
and start
very
displaying.
happily.
You carry on.
and it's very rare. You see,
Well,
like
it
a
depends
beef.
who is eating it. It
Well,
does.
yes.
As I like to eat the whole breast of duck for myself, but maybe I'm too greedy.
You
May I have
can
a bit more, just a bit more, please.
Sure.
You see, it
You
does.
can
look-
obviously cook it a bit more if you so wish.
Here you are,
But that's how personally I would like to eat it.
and that's the fan. And as Albert said, he likes small portion. And now we've got to pour the sauce, and I like it melly-mellow. You know, there's something about that nouvelle cuisine of having a bit of that, piling there. We don't like it all that much.
Well, that's a very peasant dish.
It's a
anyhow.
peasant dish,
Yeah,
so
in all its beauty.
let's do it that way.
Yeah.
That's the true way, and that's a lovely dish.
We are going to disjoint a hair and put it into a marinade and show you how easy it is.
Very underrated. Hare is a very underrated meat, and it's absolutely beautiful dishes. And the reason of the marination is to bring the meat a lot more tender, as isn't it an animal who is running a lot?
That's right. It's a
And-
runner.
Yes, it is. And it needs to be tenderized. So you're cutting the hand bit of the leg. Now you're cutting
I'm going into the leg.
to the leg. You cut the cleaver if you want to
Yes,
use it.
disjoint it.
You joint it. The saddle can be used, and it's a nice piece.
I would advise it not
To roast
put
it.
to
Much
roast
better
it.
to roast it than put it into
Yes.
the marinade and do a stew with it.
Absolutely.
Yes. That's it. Now you're moving up to, that goes into the sauce. I suggest that you should keep the saddle,
Oh,
the
yes,
back,
I think
not
so
putting
too.
it to the marinade or into that bowl for my marinade, as I'm going to do the marinade. Perfect. That
That's-
lovely piece can be roasted.
That's your saddle.
Yes.
It can be roasted. Go in there.
That's it.
And that's it.
Thank you. So running into the marinade, let's go through it. We've got the hair now. So the marinade, we've got the onions, carrots, celery, and the little thyme and laurel into it. We've got the crushed pepper and juniper berry into it. We've got the red wine vinegar, most important. A little cognac. And then we pour the wine on it. A nice red wine. Just pour it. It should just cover it, as you can see, it just does it. And then, of course, the olive oil. Just nicely on the top. And that's ready. Now, the other thing about the marinade is that I wanted to show you a lovely dish which I've done earlier on, which is the cul de capucin, which is in the oven. A little more sophisticated than just an air jack. So like at that there. That's the dish.
That look good.
The shoulders have just been taken off the bones,
And
placed
shredded.
around and shredded. You've got the little onions there and mushroom and the legs on the top. That's why we call it cul de capucin. Then I've done the sauce, and the sauce was made mainly out of the liver. See, the liver and the blood, which I've used, and of course the marinade, which has been reduced by stage. And now I've got that lovely sauce, which is a sauce out of the marinade which I pour on it. I can either pour it from the casserole, from the pan.
I can smell it, yeah.
It's a lovely homely dish, especially in the winter. And then I've done some little croutons, hard shape, which goes there around. Cook in the clarified butter, again clarified butter, and that's the dish.
I'm sure by now you have realized that my English is far from being perfect. My brother's English is lousy. You have, my dear chap, you have told people to use laurel leaf, which is absolutely deadly, so don't you rush in your garden and use them. He meant bay leaf, laurier, laurel, bay leaf. You have also talked about hair jag, which is not at all, it's a jag hair.
But nothing unusual about my English.
No, well, you're good at cooking, you can't be good at everything.
Thank you.
It remains us to say goodbye and wish you happy cooking.
And see you next week.